from that jigsaw piece, from that receptor. So it's replacing it. So they're kind of having a bit of a scrap, who gets there first, and almost invariably caffeine is going to get there at some point before the adenosine. So what happens then is you've got the complete opposite effect. You've got the wakefulness, the alertness, and that's what caffeine is doing. That's the primary mechanism of action why we feel like Kung Fu Panda.
So all that sort of fighting and action happening in my brain is sort of results in me feeling ready for action on the outside, is it?
Yes, that's the primary target, but let's also not forget then, you've got the heart and you've also got the kidneys and the bladder. So the heart, again, you've got the same receptors. Adenosine is fighting to push the heart rate down, to keep urination down. You flip it to the opposite side with caffeine coming in that's shaped almost identically, looks very similar to adenosine, it outcompetes it, so you get the opposite effect. So heart rate starts to shoot up and you want to wee.
It's a master infiltrator is all I'm learning.
Absolutely, undercover assassin. No, that's a bit negative, isn't it? Infiltrator is a better word.
We talked a little bit about what you notice in the short term. What are the long-term benefits of caffeine?
The evidence today is suggesting that 3 to 4 cups of coffee a day keeps the doctor away. Generally speaking, good for diabetes, good for heart disease, good for Parkinson's, for example. The jury's still out as far as all neurodegenerative disease, including Alzheimer's, dementias are concerned. If you were really drinking more caffeine, you start to develop the jitters, you can become a little bit twitchy, you can become anxious, it can actually induce panic attacks, you can feel your heart rate racing.
Can you build up a kind of tolerance to caffeine? I hear some people brag about how many cups of coffee they might have in a day.
Yeah, you can, and it's all related to the way caffeine outcompetes those adenosine receptors. Right. So you're going to require more caffeine to get the same behavioral effect, if you like. The other thing that's important to mention as well is the way we respond to caffeine is based on how you choose your mum and dad. It's genetic.
Oh.
So
I was like, I can choose. Sorry, Mum. I'm
so
not.
99.9% of you and I share exactly the same DNA, but 0.1% accounts for all of the differences, why we look different, why we also handle drugs like caffeine differently.
David, on average, because everyone's different, but on average, what is the maximum number of caffeinated drinks you should have in a day if you drink espressos?
Probably 2 double shots.
Regular coffee, how many?
4 to 5 cups.
Cups of tea?
You could probably add another cup on top of that.
5 to 6?
Yeah.
And fizzy drinks, energy drinks?
Fizzy drinks, if they contain 100 milligrams of caffeine, again, probably 4 is the upper limit. And the energy drinks, look at those labels very, very carefully. I would say 1 energy drink.
Do you think, because I know like nutritional information and ingredients are appearing on restaurant menus, do you think we should have sort of caffeine information?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I spend a lot of time drinking coffee in lots of different countries. That's kind of what I like about culture, is going to different coffee shops and, you know, seeing how people brew their coffee and the way they serve their coffee. Copenhagen is a great example. You know, it's a great place to drink coffee. They really take their coffee seriously, and they'll actually, in front of you, they'll measure and weigh the amount of coffee that's going into your drink. So you've got a better idea how much caffeine is going into your drink. I have no idea how much caffeine I'm drinking here.
You just know that it tastes nice.
Yeah.
What about when you should drink it?
Some interesting research suggesting wait 90 minutes after you've woken up, work through the grogginess, and then have your first cup.
Why is that exactly?
You wait 90 minutes so the adenosine is slowly being released, unbound from the receptors. Then you hit it with caffeine, you're going to get a big bang for your buck.
It's like a guard wandering away from its post a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good analogy, yeah.
And then sneak attack. I feel like, Damien, I've learned an awful lot today. You can have a long-lasting marriage to coffee so long as you nurture the relationship and take care of it.
Yeah,
which I think is a life lesson for all marriages, really.
And sleep well. So long as you're sleeping well, you know, that's one of the key take-homes there. Is if you're struggling to sleep, fragmented sleep, if you're finding yourself very irritable, on edge, struggling to focus, more often than not, you can trace it back to overdoing the marriage, a little bit too much caffeine.
David, thank you so much. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit later. Have you got your dancing shoes for me?
Yep, ready to go.
So as long as you're not going beyond the amounts we just talked about, the current thinking is caffeine is good for you. But no matter how much you consume, it's no replacement for getting enough sleep. Which gives me an idea.
We will be travelling to Manchester Piccadilly.
I'm catching the train north now and heading to Trafford General Hospital in Greater Manchester to meet a sleep expert and find out more about the perfect nap. For the last couple of weeks I've been napping every day, or at least trying to, and I've been wearing a device that looks a bit like a watch, but it tracks my sleep rather than telling the time. And I've kept a diary showing my caffeine intake, when I eat, when I drink alcohol, and when I go to bed. While I'm on the train, have a listen to this. I've got about half an hour, 40 minutes left of my break, so I'm going to try and squeeze a nap in. The only downside is that I'm currently in the middle of a supermarket car park in Leighton Buzzard. So I might get some funny looks, but here we go. Oh god, I've just remembered where I am. So I'm just woken from a little nap because my car made a noise randomly and I don't really know why. Let me sit up in the front seat. I think I slept for about 20 minutes there, and I feel groggy. And I really don't think that nap was good for me, actually. So today is a studio day, and I've had a busy morning recording for Inside Health, but now I need to go for my nap. I've put a big sign on the door, and I've written in big felt tip pen, "Quiet please, Radio 4 study into science of napping in progress." I'm going to turn off the lights. There we go. So, see you on the other side. Oh, the light just went off on my phone. Wake me up. Oh, I feel like I was really only just starting to get into that. Another day, and a bit easier to nap today because it's my day off. So I'm at home, so I'm gonna actually crawl into a proper bed for this nap. It's just before midday. And the dogs decided to join me, haven't you, Loki? Because it's important.
Thank you for travelling the Transport Point.
So my determination to nap over the past couple of weeks has had, shall we say, mixed results. Back to today though, I've just arrived at Trafford General's sleep service.
My name is Dr. Maria Mascareno Ponte. I'm one of the sleep consultants and I'm the clinical lead for the sleep department.
I've been losing a bit of sleep actually just thinking about these results you've got in front of you. What have you found out about me that I don't know?
Okay, I will start telling you the positive things. You have a very good sleep routine. You usually tend to go to bed at the same time. Then what I was able to see is that you tend to fall asleep quite quickly in less than 10 minutes. As well, we calculate something that we call a sleep efficiency. The sleep efficiency is how many hours you are physically sleeping. When you are in bed, you always are sleeping.
Okay, that sounds great. So are there any downsides to what you found out about me?
Based on all the investigations that we did, you don't spend enough time in bed.
Yes.
In my opinion, you have something that we call a sleep insufficiency. It means that you don't spend enough hours in bed and you don't give you the opportunity to sleep. Normally, we need to spend in bed around 7 or 9 hours, and you only spend in bed between 5 and 6 hours some of the days.
What should I do if I'm not getting enough sleep? Should I be napping?
In your case, you need to try to go to bed early or maybe spend 30 minutes more in bed. Napping is not going to be the substitution of your death of sleep.
Before we go any further into naps, what is the difference between a nap and a sleep?
I don't see any scientific difference. A nap tends to be a shorter duration, and physiologically, a nap tends to have the same process that you will have at your night of sleep.
If someone said to you, what is a good length of time for me to nap for, what would you say to them?
The best length of the nap will be between 20 and 30 minutes, a short nap.
Why is that?
Because what we try to do with the nap is to avoid to go to the deepest sleep, because if you go to the deepest sleep, you will need more time to be alert and then you will feel a negative impact of the nap, and you will feel very drowsy after that.
So can we do some quick myth-busting questions about napping? So, myth number one, not everyone can nap. Is that true or false?
This is true. Some people have more tendency to nap.
Napping is good for your brain. True or false?
Some studies suggest that short naps, they have some beneficial in the long-term run, but at the moment we don't have enough strong scientific evidence to suggest that this statement is real true or real false.
Next myth we're going to bust. There's a point in the afternoon where it's too late to nap. True or false?
True. The best time to nap is based on your circadian rhythm, because not everybody have the same circadian rhythm.
Right, so if you're an early bird, you should nap at a different time to someone who's a bit of a night owl.
Exactly. Ideally, their time to nap is between 12 and 2 o'clock. But then if you are a late chronotype, then maybe your time to nap is between maybe 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock.
So if you're a morning person or an early bird, you want to be sleeping between 12 and 2.
Yeah.
If you like to get up late, if you're a bit of a night owl, 2 to 4 is the sweet spot.
Exactly.
Another myth, setting a wake-up alarm ruins a nap. Is that true or false?
This is false. Why? Because the most important thing of the nap is always to put an alarm to control the length of the nap, because if not, can have negative impact in your sleep at night.
Alright, next one. Some people say it's a great idea to have a coffee or a cup of tea before they go for a nap, a nappuccino, if you will. They say it helps them wake up and it's good for them. Is that true or false?
This is true. When you take caffeine, take 30 minutes to act, and they will help you to be alert. When you wake for the nap, you will have the effect of the coffee plus the short nap that produce a lot of alertness, and you will be more efficient.
And final true or false, women need more sleep than men. Is that true or false?
This is false.
False.
Yes. What is impact more is the age, more than the if you are female or male. When we grow up, and then when we become more elderly, your sleep quality tend to be poorly, and your sleep efficiency tend to be worse.
When you get older, much older, you aren't sleeping so well at night, so you're more likely to want to have a nap in the day.
Exactly. This is why during the daytime, you tend to catch up with your sleep regard to that matter. And then you need to understand as well that when you become older, your level of activity is less, you have less daytime routine, and then can have more predisposition to have a nap.
Right, and you get stuck in that sort of circle. So, Maria, are there times where someone is napping so much that actually it could be concerning?
The research and the scientific evidence is not very strong, because the study that we have, they tend to be observational studies. Based on the research that we have available, it is suggested that people who tend to have long naps, more than 60 minutes, can have some negative impact in the health. They tend to have a factor to have risk as obesity. Then they tend to have abnormalities in the blood pressure. They tend to have repercussions in diabetes, and they tend to have more cardiovascular complications. This is why we can say that people who tend to have longer naps, they tend to have more complications in their overall health.
More time napping, potentially more complications, but actually a lot more research is still needed.
Exactly.
When you say observational, what you mean is that you're looking at this group of participants and you're noticing some links, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the naps are causing this, they're just both happening, is that right?
This is right, because we don't know if the nap is the only factor or the only thing that can produce these abnormalities, or maybe you have a genetic component, or maybe you have another habit that they can impact.
So overall, is the scientific consensus that napping is good or bad?
Overall, it's good if you do at a specific time, you do a specific duration, and you have a good sleep routine and don't impact in your overall health.
Maria, I've got to ask you, do you nap regularly?
No, I'm afraid that the majority of the time I don't have a sleep opportunity and I cannot able to nap. But over the weekend, normally, because I'm like you, I don't spend enough time in bed. If I give me the right opportunity, probably I will have a short nap.
Because napping's a lot about perception, isn't it, really? I think in the UK, napping is perceived as something that lazy people do.
I think people think that having a nap is for lazy people or for people who doesn't want to work or people who doesn't want to engage, but this is a wrong myth because napping can have beneficial in specific situations. It can improve productivity, can produce that you are in a better condition to work, and can have a very positive impact in your day by day. This is why some companies are trying to put napping times in the working hours, and I don't think that is a bad idea because you can have a break and you can have some time for you, and then can reduce your stress, can improve your quality of work.
Maria, if you'd like to get one message across to people listening today about napping, what would you say to them?
If you have a nap, you will always need to remember that need to be between 20 and 30 minutes. Always set up an alarm.
Thank you so much, Maria. I feel like I've really learned that napping is good, but it's no substitute for a proper night's rest.
This is right. Remember, napping is not going to help you to catch up with your sleep if you don't sleep enough at night.
I tell you what, never in a million years did I think Maria would tell me that I need to spend more time in bed. Absolutely thrilled with that result. But I also learned from Maria that napping is good for you, but not as important as a proper night's sleep. And then remember before that, Damien told us that caffeine is good for you, but again, not as important as sleep. Well, now I'm rested and I'm caffeinated, I think it's about time I headed out. And I mean, out. I'm heading to Day Fever in London, Soho, and we're going to spend the afternoon clubbing. I wonder who I'll meet.
Are you excited today?
I am. I'm excited to see what happens. Thank you. It's a bit difficult to talk to people because it's just so loud. So I think the best thing we should do is go where I know people are always out for a chat, and that is the Loos.
I've come with my girlfriend, we've got kids, so we can't go to nightclubs during the night. It's just brilliant. It's good for health, isn't it? It's good, makes you happy. It's making me happy today. So, yeah, have you been dancing?
Not yet, no.
You
Just
going?
hanging out by the toilet.
Clearly, yeah.
Well, I read something on the BBC website and I thought that's exactly what I need, daytime, so you can wake up here with the kids and running home hang out every tired. Everyone's just up for having a good time, everyone's just being themselves. Feels good. Why did it become a thing that we don't do anymore just because it's night time? So I really like that, sort of reclaiming the dance.
I'm having the best time ever in very baggy trousers and trainers. I'm going to go to bed on the same day that I woke up. That's got to be a plus.
I'm actually playing golf at 8:15 tomorrow morning, right? I would not be doing that if I was in a club till 2. So, you can do both, right?
That's really true.
It is true.
I'm glad you're playing golf.
Yeah, I know.
Really happy for
Still
you.
get to it like I'm on a radio, right?
I just think it's really fantastic just to go out during the day, guilt-free, go home, still watch matches of the day, and yeah, I think it's great. I think it's cracking.
And we're actually here because we're doing a bit of research into whether it's healthier for us to go out in the afternoon.
I think it is. I think it is.
Why do you think that?
So normally, right, you'd go home and have a kebab, wouldn't you? Right, like at 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
But like, you might go home and steam some broccoli and have a bit of fish and have a nice meal.
So you're going to go home and cook yourself a proper meal?
Absolutely not. I'm going day clubbing and I'm going night clubbing. Right.
So what we've just seen down there is no different to a nightclub in the middle of the night. But now I've come back upstairs because we're about to leave and I can see the sky is still light. I think it's time though we try to find out whether partying like this in the afternoon is better for us than doing it later at night. Should we go back to Barry Island again and have a word with Damien? Thanks. Have a good night, guys.
Good afternoon, you mean?
Oh yeah, of course. So back on Barry Island, and I've come with Damien to a much warmer location than that cafe. And we're standing in front of a dance now. Damien, I challenge you to a dance.
I'll accept the challenge. What's your lay down?
We've just got to tap our feet up and down, left and right, as it says on the screen. Have you done this before?
Probably about 30 years ago.
Oh, I'm sure the dance moves haven't changed that much.
Two-person
Dance
pace
together,
numbers,
each
each on the 4 foot pads.
Okay, do you want to hit that green button? So right now, I'm dancing right, one foot, right foot, right foot. When you go dancing,
Yep.
what's happening in your body? Why does it feel good?
Your heart rate is increasing as it is now. Slightly out of breath as well. You're working quite hard actually. You're consuming oxygen and you're burning calories. So at the moment, I'm not sure what your heart rate is.
I don't need a heart rate detector to tell you that it's getting high. So it's basically the same as exercising. You're doing all the positive things to move your body whilst creating those endorphins.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're releasing endorphins, it's triggering the happy center, the pleasure center in the brain, and you're consuming oxygen. That's the key thing here. You're burning calories.
You say that struggling for breath here.
And if you can't speak when you're dancing, you're probably dancing a little bit too hard.
Oh right, so you should be dancing it and be able to...
Yeah, be able to have a conversation.
So what are the advantages of doing this kind of exercise earlier in the day as opposed to say the evening?
You're exercising in the day, but you can come home and you can get a good night's sleep in and feel refreshed by the time you wake up the following morning.
Is there anything though, if you go out earlier, that you might stay out for longer and later and potentially do yourself more?
Well, the calories that we're expending at the moment, and I've only been going for 20 seconds, you could be doing this for 5 or 6 hours. I'm pretty much guaranteed that you're going to want to come home for a good night's sleep.
What about the things that go hand in hand with like going out dancing?
Well, for
Is it
example,
as clear cut as you say it is for dancing?
for example, if people do go out and if they drink caffeinated drinks, energy drinks, for example, if they drink alcohol, the good thing is that when you're exercising in the day, you can metabolize those drugs, get them out of your system so that when it comes to going to sleep at night, you haven't got a fragmented night's sleep, you've got a full night's sleep. So you've got more rapid eye movement, deep sleep if you like. And that's the key to waking up in the morning and feeling really quite refreshed.
We failed.
I was just making my moves up, I've got to be honest.
Should we go for another round?
Yes, what am I looking at, there or there?
You're looking there, but you also need to move your feet. Up and right and
It's just so much easier for you, Laura.
What's really struck me is how everything keeps coming back to sleep. What you drink, whether you nap, what time you go out, whatever you're doing, it's all about making sure you still get the sleep your body and your brain really need. And it's one of the reasons why in the next series of Inside Health, we'll be looking at what happens if you don't get enough of it. We're dedicating a programme to insomnia and what you can do to get more sleep. If you've got any questions, please send them our way and we'll put them to our panel. The address is insidehealth@bbc.co.uk.
Laura Foster, who deserves a rest. The producer was Jerry Holt. Love is in the air this Valentine's Day, but the proportion of adults trying to tie the knot continues to fall. So what's the moral value of marriage? That's tonight's Moral Maze, live with Michael Burke at 8 o'clock. And since we're on the matters of the heart, time for a quick look ahead to Friday. Drama on BBC Radio 4.
I still love Larry, but differently. More like the way you love a cousin, or really good cheese. What have I got to look forward to? Is it the cleaning, the shopping, paying the bills? You see why I needed something.
A romance scam sends Joseph's suburban life out of control.
You're gonna do an underworld crime thing.
I have to look normal. A sweet, lovely, nice mother-wife woman.
You drove a car at him!
Yes, sorry. Not a murderer.
Love and Other Lies, a comic thriller, begins this Friday afternoon at 2:15 on Radio 4 and BBC Sounds.
BBC News at 4 o'clock. The Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas has called on Hamas to urgently reach an agreement with Israel on a ceasefire in Gaza to avoid what he called another catastrophe. Representatives of Hamas have been meeting officials from the US, Qatar and Egypt in Cairo for talks. Pressure's been growing on Israel ahead of an expected ground offensive in the southern city of Rafah. Our correspondent in Jerusalem, Barbara Plett-Usher, says the UN has voiced grave concerns.
What Mr. Griffiths, the top humanitarian official at the UN, said, military operations in Rafah could lead to a slaughter in Gaza. He said the already fragile humanitarian operation could be at death's door if that happened. And he basically said it's already not working, it's in tatters. We lack the safety guarantees, the aid supplies and the staff capacity to keep this operation afloat.
Labour says it will not hesitate to block people who are unfit to be MPs after two of its election candidates were suspended because they allegedly made offensive comments about Israel at a meeting. The party suspended Graham Jones pending an investigation. He'd been selected to contest the seat of Hyndburn in Lancashire. The party withdrew support for its candidate in the Rochdale by-election, Azar Ali, hours earlier. Ukraine's military says it's destroyed a Russian warship that was in its waters off occupied Crimea in the Black Sea. Kiev said that the Cesar Kunikov, a large landing ship, was hit by drones and started to sink after the attack. Moscow hasn't commented. Official figures show the UK's inflation rate remained steady last month at 4%. That's the same rate as in December. The Chancellor, Jeremy Hunt, said inflation never fell in a perfect straight line, but the government was making progress in reducing it. 9 people, including 6 Metropolitan Police officers, have been taken to hospital after their police van collided with a bus in South London. The crash happened in Kennington this morning. BBC News.
In half an hour, the radio critic Gillian Reynolds will be paying her tribute to the life and career of Steve Wright, whose death was announced yesterday. That's in the media show at 4:30. But now on Radio 4, here's Laurie Taylor with Thinking Aloud.
Hello. A memory came rushing back to mind as I was reading a fine new book on the phenomenon of anonymity. Quite suddenly, I remembered with awful clarity the moment back in the late, well, it would be the 1960s, when I decided to become a famous actor. Now, my first part was modest, little more than a few lines in Alan Owen's play Progress for the Park at Joan Littlewood's Stratford East Theatre. But a week before I was due on stage, I was contacted by the actors.
Yes, hello, good afternoon. Yes, I think I'm just looking now at I'm on M6, yes, and to reach there I will have 1 hour because it's very slow here between junction 2 and junction 10. Very, very slow. Yeah, I think by 5 o'clock I will be there. Yeah. In the front. I don't know where is the front because all the time I've been twice. Twice I've been in the bottom. I've been in the parking. When it's inside the parking, yeah. I don't know where it is outside. In the front.
Camera in 300 yards.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I can do that, yeah, it's alright. Yeah, yes, I'm gonna find you, it's alright. No worries, thank you, bye.
Obviously. What main questions motivated your research?
How should we understand anonymity and pseudonymity generally, but also across a variety of contexts? Why do people act anonymously? Why do they take on pseudonyms? What do they do to become anonymous? What are the implications of anonymous activity for various relationships and for society in general, for better or for worse? I became interested in the ways that actors use anonymity and pseudonymity for protective purposes. And in this sense, I started to discuss cases that involve anonymous literature, like the case of the Italian novelist Elena Ferrante, anonymous sources in the press, anonymous testimony in court, crime tip lines, anonymous charity, anonymous recovery groups, and anonymous online forums and social media apps.
Well, I've got a reading here of some of the words of Dr. H., an anonymous psychiatrist who gave this presentation to the American Psychiatric Association back in 1972.
I am in disguise tonight, in order that I might speak freely, without conjuring up too much regard on your part about the particular of whom I happen to be. As psychiatrists who are homosexual, we must know our place and what we must do to be successful. We must make certain that no one in a position of power is aware of our sexual preference. Much like the black man with light skin who chooses to live as a white man. We cannot be seen with our real friends, our real homosexual family, lest our secret be known and our dooms sealed.
You begin your book with an account of that 1972 meeting, which of course led the American Psychiatric Association to declassify homosexuality as a mental disorder. What do you see as significant about this event in terms of your analysis of anonymity?
It was spurred by gay rights activists. And so you have this panel which included people like Barbara Giddings and Franklin Kameny, prominent gay rights activists, prominent psychiatrists, Judd Marmer and Robert Seidenberg. They were all on the panel openly displaying their personal identities and their reputations and their perspectives from that angle. But you had a fifth panelist who appeared wearing a mask, stretched out rubber mask, a wig, an oversized tuxedo he had borrowed from a theater props department, using a microphone to distort his voice with a name tag that read Dr. H. Anonymous. Now we know that this is Dr. John Ursel Fryer, but we didn't know that until 1994, over 20 years later. His anonymity served a remarkable purpose because it protected him from the discrimination that he would have faced had his identity as a gay psychiatrist been known. He was the only one on the panel who was both gay and a psychiatrist, and that presented a unique threat at that particular time and place. He could have been denied tenure, he could have been disallowed to practice medicine. And so he came out in a very brave act to express a very important message for the audience in attendance, and in doing so he also expressed something about the condition faced by gay men and lesbian women across the United States and indeed throughout many places in the world at the time.
We're talking here in a way about a very brave historical performance, and your core argument is that anonymity and pseudo-anonymity are best understood as performances.
First, these states are fundamentally social. They are social accomplishments which always take place for an audience. And an interesting point is that there are often some people who know the identities of actors that are hidden from others. So while there are audiences to the performance of anonymity, there are these back region or backstage groups of people. People know, for example, who the artist Banksy was. Jonathan Swift's friends were in on the situation when he published Gulliver's Travels anonymously. People know who Elena Ferrante is. Her publishers are well aware of her personal identity. So as people perform anonymity or use pseudonyms, there's often a specific audience that they're performing for, but there's a backstage group as well. Second, they convey meaning with their acts, and they convey meaning for their audiences. Actors bring these states to life, and they often express themselves using various types of symbolism to define their situations. We can continue to consider the case of Dr. H. Anonymous and his elaborate costume, which was very performative, as you point out. He was speaking from the metaphorical closet being behind the mask.
Let's turn to another form of anonymity, one that you call subversive anonymity. You've got a lot of examples here, ranging from the Ku Klux Klan to the Hacker Network Anonymous and the Federal Bureau of Investigations. Tell me a little more about those.
I refer to the ways that actors subvert the norms of personal identity in order to bring subversive characters to life and to act subversively in the world. And they typically bring alternative meanings or counter norms to life. With the case of the American Ku Klux Klan, we can think about all of the deep symbolism inherent in Klan costumes and anonymous behaviors, all of which is central to their attempts to undermine Northern efforts at Reconstruction and democratic racial integration at various periods of time. These symbols they used to perform at times as Confederate ghosts, the ghosts of Confederate soldiers, or to establish a mythical ancestry to Christian Europe, or to present themselves as a mass movement when they weren't so mass at all, or more directly and tragically to enact terror, to bring terrorism to life, and much more. Their anonymity in the symbolism of their costumes and their hoods became central to the character of their subversive activity. With the Hacker Networks of Anonymous, they performed their anonymity to challenge mainstream power structures and modes of information control, and they mobilized the symbolism of the Guy Fawkes mask, as translated through Alan Moore and David Lloyd's graphic novel or James McTeague's 2006 film, V for Vendetta. The case of the American FBI is a bit different. During their counterintelligence operations, which began under the directorship of J. Edgar Hoover in the 1950s, they regularly used anonymity to subvert subversive activity, to disrupt social movements by promoting suspicion, paranoia, inciting rivalries, breaking